Notorious for his heinous crimes, Albert Fish was once described as the most vicious child slayer in criminal history. This chilling description isn't an exaggeration, but a grim reality. A reality that saw Fish become a symbol of monstrous cruelty. His name is etched in the annals of crime, not just for the atrocities he committed, but for the cold-blooded manner in which he carried them out. Behind this grim title lies a tale of unthinkable horrors. Born on May 19, 1870, Albert Fish's childhood was marred by abandonment, abuse, and tragedy. His life began in Washington, D.C., a city teeming with promise and prosperity. But for Albert, it was a world of despair. His family was plagued with a history of mental illness, a grim inheritance that affected him deeply. When he was just 5 years old, his father passed away, leaving him and his 3 siblings at the mercy of an overwhelmed mother. Unable to cope, she sent them to an orphanage. The orphanage was a hellscape of brutal discipline and cruelty, an environment that would warp young Albert's perception of pain and pleasure. His early life was a cauldron of hardship, a crucible that would shape the man he would become. The experiences he endured, the cruelty he witnessed, the pain he felt, all these likely contributed to his later life and monstrous acts. These early years were a dark prelude to the atrocities Fish would later commit. As he grew older, Fish's sadistic tendencies escalated into unthinkable crimes. Let's delve into the chilling narrative of Albert Fish's monstrous deeds, a series of horrifying acts that sent shockwaves through society. We tread carefully here, focusing not on sensationalism, but on the sad reality of these events and their devastating impact on the victims and their families. Fish's first known victims were the Budd siblings, a case that began in the summer of 1924. A seemingly harmless man, Fish managed to gain the trust of their family, a trust that would soon turn into a nightmare. The disappearance of young Grace Budd left a family in ruins and a community in fear. His modus operandi was disturbingly methodical. Fish targeted children, preferably alone and vulnerable. He offered them work or money, gaining their trust before leading them away. He didn't discriminate based on gender or race. His victims were chosen solely based on their vulnerability. The details of his crimes are gruesome, to say the least. Fish was not only a kidnapper, but also a torturer and murderer. He admitted to the use of implements like needles and paddles in his horrific acts, a chilling testament to his sadistic nature. Each crime left a family shattered, a community terrified. The grief was immeasurable, the fear pervasive. Parents held their children a little tighter. Communities looked at strangers with suspicion. Fish's monstrous deeds created a ripple effect of fear and sorrow that extended far beyond his direct victims. The eeriest part about Fish was his ability to blend into society. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing, a seemingly harmless old man who harbored a monstrous secret. He was a living contradiction, a stark reminder that evil often lurks where we least expect it. Fish's reign of terror spanned over a decade, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. His deeds were not just crimes against individuals, but against humanity itself. The atrocities committed by Albert Fish are a grim reminder of the monstrous capabilities that can lurk within a human being. Finally, in 1934, the law caught up with Albert Fish. His capture came as a great relief to a society that had been paralyzed by fear. Fish's arrest was a spectacle, his trial a sensation. The public followed each development with a morbid fascination, relieved that this monster was no longer a threat to their safety. During the trial, Fish's heinous crimes were laid bare for all to see. The courtroom was filled with a palpable sense of horror and revulsion as the extent of his monstrous deeds was revealed. Yet, there was also a sense of justice being served, of a nightmare finally ending. In 1936, Fish was executed in the electric chair at Sing Sing Correctional Facility. His death was met with a collective sigh of relief. The terror was over. Fish's demise marked the end of one of the darkest chapters in American criminal history. Albert Fish's story is a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. His life, a horrific tableau of unimaginable atrocities, left a lasting impact not just on his victims, but also rippled through their families. His monstrous deeds, a stark testament to the darkest corners of the human psyche, serve as a grim reflection of what humanity is capable of when void of empathy and compassion. Even decades after his death, the memory of Albert Fish continues to haunt the annals of true crime.